So delighted to be able to welcome everyone this afternoon. I'm Jennifer King, and I serve as the director of the Stuart A. Rose Manuscript Archives and Rare Book Library. And on behalf of the Emory Libraries, I'm delighted to welcome you to Emory University Schwartz Performing Arts Center for an incredibly special poetry reading this gorgeous Saturday afternoon with one of the most impactful poets of our generation, Nikki Giovanni. We've all been looking forward to this day. This afternoon's program is made possible thanks to the wonderful support from creative writing at Emory and the Hightower Fund. I want to thank our colleagues in the Schwartz Performing Arts Center for all they have done to make today possible, along with the organizers, planners, poets, curators, archivists, you, the audience members, funders, and friends who support this program. We here at Emory have many things to celebrate, and one of those is the prominent place that poetry holds in our hearts and on our campus. Since the fall of 2005, the Raymond Danowski Poetry Series has hosted some of the best poets from America and abroad, including Seamus Heaney, Billy Collins, Carol Ann Duffy, Natasha Trethewey, Lucille Clifton, Elizabeth Alexander, Rita Dove, Mary Oliver, Tracy K. Smith, Richard Blanco. This reading series is one of the longest-running initiatives of its kind on our campus. The Rose Library's extraordinary poetry archive offers us all a window into the writing process and the relationships that sustain and support the art of poetry. The library also gives us opportunity to create community and connections with events like today's. We are so honored to have Nikki Giovanni with us today. And here to introduce Nikki Giovanni is Gabrielle Dudley, my colleague in the Rose Library, instruction archivist who's also the curator of the exhibition She Gathers Me, Networks Among Black Women Writers.
Good afternoon. Oh, what a time to be alive. We are so lucky to be able to share space and time on this earth with an icon and living legend like Nikki Giovanni. Judging from this record-breaking crowd, you all know the greatness that we are about to witness. But for those of you that might be new here, Miss Giovanni has been awarded 7 NAACP Image Awards. She is a Grammy-nominated poet and a 3-time New York Times bestselling writer. She was named one of Oprah's 25 living legends and holds the keys to more cities than I can even count. Since 1987, she has been on the faculty at Virginia Tech, where she is the University Distinguished Professor. It is a challenge for me to think about what Nikki Giovanni means to me and my generation without thinking about my parents, Maple and George Dudley. My mother, the reader and writer, my father, the revolutionary. Looking back, I don't think there was a time that Nikki Giovanni's words were not with me. My parents taught me and my siblings, Black love is Black wealth, and to beat out my own rhythm. And we cannot possibly leave it to others to tell my stories. I heard this over and over again as a child. So imagine my surprise, me, a precocious preteen, when I was reading Nikki Giovanni for the first time and saw what I thought were my parents' words staring back at me. Everything my parents have ever taught me about myself, my Blackness, my worth, was lifted from Miss Nikki Giovanni herself. A part of me wanted, yes, that is, a part of me wanted to call my parents out on that, but I knew that wouldn't be a good idea. So instead, I began to understand my parents and what they knew to be the power of words and affirmation. They understood the power of poetry to not only change their lives, but to raise up a new generation. Poetry like that of Nikki Giovanni's is intergenerational and intersectional. It challenges us to engage and connect to our world in new and scary and beautiful ways. It supports us in conquering our fears and encourages us to show up in the world audaciously and as nothing other than our own authentic selves. So it is only fitting to have the 20th annual Raymond Danowski Poetry Library Reading Series feature a poet whose words have given such power to generations. Please join me in welcoming the woman whose words raised me, Miss Nikki Giovanni.
Oh my, thank you. It's very nice to be here. It's always good to be back in Atlanta, but this is very nice. Thank you. No, I was just saying to Nick, who's the young man you see in the jacket and everything, and I said to him, you know, I'm glad it's not football season because we're running 15 minutes late, and if it was football season and we ran over, all of y'all be, you know, sorry, Nikki, you know, we enjoyed it, but you know. Got to make kickoff, you know, so I'm really glad. I don't know, I didn't do a mic check, and I don't know if it's okay. Can I just pull it down a little bit? The first thing you learn in this business is don't touch the mic. But I don't know, and this is not important. I just thought I'd share it for a minute. I don't know if you saw USA Today yesterday, and they had, I hate any newspaper that doesn't have comics, but you got to have, you know, how do you make it through the day without pickles? But I love pickles. But they had, their front page was that Mississippi and Alabama had problems, as they put it, with the prisoners. And so they were upset about it. And so what Mississippi said, and I just thought I'd have to share it with, what Mississippi was saying was, we don't have enough guards. And I thought, no, you have too many prisoners. But, you know, it never occurs to them anything like that. And you do get tired of shit like that with, if the youngsters will excuse, you just get tired of hearing that, you know, people are in jail. And then 25 years later, somebody says they're innocent. 25 years later, you don't care if they're guilty. 25 years is a long time. And I'm a big fan of voting, and I wanted to share that. It was such a pleasure for me, for a lot of reasons, but I'm a Delta, and when I saw, when I saw that red, when we pulled up and I saw that red, I said to Nick, you know, stop the car, I gotta get up. I gotta say hello, absolutely. And of course, we recognize that our mothers are the AKAs. Speaking of, if I can just share one stupid thing, but it's true. Speaking of AKAs, I had the, no, well, they're good people. I had the pleasure of knowing Mrs. Parks for a lot of reasons. It was a rainy, terrible day in Pennsylvania, and she was going one place, and Miss Parks didn't travel alone, and I was going another, and I do. I am essentially a nervous person. I am so proud of myself right now that I'm letting people stand behind me because sit or whatever they're doing. I really, I don't ever like people behind me, but I know that, you know, I feel safe, but it makes you nervous. So when I walked into, for those of you who know the old Pittsburgh airport, I walked into it. It was an old trailer, really. It wasn't even an airport. And I walked in and did what I did actually here, though nobody knew that. I hope I didn't look like it. And I looked around to see, okay, where can I put my back? And I can sleep any place. I could actually stand up here and probably get a big nap, you know. And so I found some place and I sat down, and then I looked over. And it's one of those, damn, that woman looks just like Rosa Parks. And so I did what any old lady can't see, I put on my glasses. And I looked over, I said, oh, it's Mrs. Parks. And she was sitting there, she traveled, you know, at that point with her niece, and she was sitting there. So I'm not a fool. I have my problems, but I'm not a fool. Now I saw a black woman and a black woman, and next to them was a white man. Now I knew that I could not ask that white man to do what I wanted done, because I could have walked over to him and said, excuse me, sir, you're sitting next to a cultural icon, and I'd like to have your seat, please. You know that wouldn't happen because he's white. He would have known now, I got something, you know what I'm saying? And it, would have never let me have it. So I did that thing that some of you who are my age know. It's called bogarting. And so he looked up at me, and I said, well, are you gonna move or what? And he said, I'm sorry. And I sat down and I said, Miss Parks, you know, and I introduced myself. And it was really great because after a while we became friends. And Miss Parks was a tea drinker, some of you know. I'm a coffee drinker, as probably everybody knows now. And so we were up there, she was in Detroit, but, you know, because she had to leave, as you know, Alabama for a variety of reasons. And so we were just sitting there. Well, they were gonna kill her, you know, but other than that, she would have been fine. So we were sitting there one day, and I'm sure that all of you know, when you're talking to people like Rosa Parks, that, you know, you just can't say stupid things like, you know, how did you feel when you sat on the bus and knew that you were going to be arrested? That makes sense, and you can't do it, you know. But we were sitting there, and I gossiped. I'm not a vicious gossiper, but I gossip. And I don't do a lot, but I do sort of listen to a lot of things. And I was sitting there, I was having my coffee, she was having her tea. And I said, you know, Miss Parks, it is amazing to me when I look at your life and I realize you only made one mistake. It's amazing. And Miss Parks is very cool. Some of you knew Miss Parks. She was a very cool person, but I think I caught her off guard and her face fell. And she said, and what would that be, baby? I said, you went AKA. Well, you know, she should have been a Delta. But we laughed. So we have a lot in common. AKA, these are all good people. AKA, look, you had Maya, you got Toni Morrison. I mean, you know, you have a lot of good people. Of course, we have the people that did the important work, Barbara Jordan. Shame on me. Shame on me. I wrote a poem that I'd like to share, and it's called, I've been working on the title. I'm not really sure we're gonna end the I started to call it Vote, and then last night I was reading it and trying to work it through, and I called it 2020 because you have to vote. And, you know, and I know a lot of what's going on with the vote is that people want to discourage us, and they want to say, you know, Donald Trump is going to win or whatever. And that's not the point. You don't play the game to win, you play the game to play it, and to play your best. And as we all know, if Hitler had married Satan, they would have had Donald Trump. So I want to encourage everybody to vote. Fill it in, fill in the blank. It doesn't matter, because there was a woman, if I may, and this is not Nikki here to give you a history lesson. There's a woman named Fannie Lou Hamer. And as you know, Miss Hamer is Mississippian, and Miss Hamer organized the Mississippi Freedom Democratic Party. And what she wanted, because she said the Democratic Party in Mississippi was, of course, all white and racist. And you know what? I still don't. I just don't understand why white people are afraid of black people. I just don't. I mean, it has to be fear that if you have to walk around and say, I can't sit next to you, I can't drink from the same fountain, I can't, what are you afraid of? And of course, those of us in this room or any place else who are rich, and there are rich white people, they can't be considered rich. They can't be considered white because we know that you are what you eat. And the richer you are, you know that your father didn't want your mother's tits messed up because he wanted to play with them. So when his wife got pregnant, he would send down into the slave quarters, wouldn't he? And ask which slave had milk. And they would bring that slave woman up, and the baby would drink from that. I'm gonna say it again, you are what you eat. Ain't nobody really white in this, but that's a whole nother discussion, I guess. But I've been, and I watch Donald Trump, and I'm not gonna keep doing it, but I think, what is he afraid of? What makes, you've never seen a bunch of black boys cover their faces in the middle of the night and go into a white neighborhood to lynch somebody or shoot somebody. And that's what the Klan did. If you're proud of it, if that's what you're gonna do, then let me see your face. So now, that's true. Now we're seeing white supremacists, and everybody's saying, you don't understand them. No, I don't want to understand. I want them in jail, and I want my brothers and my husbands and my friends out. It's the truth. I wrote a poem. I guess it's called Vote. It's not a hug, nor mistletoe at Christmas. It's not a colored egg at Easter, nor a bunny hopping across the meadow. It's a vote, saying you are a citizen. Though sometimes it's chocolate or sometimes it's vanilla. It can be female or male. It is right or left. I can agree or disagree, but, and this is an important but, I am a citizen. I should be able to vote from prison. I should be able to vote from the battlefield. I should be able to vote when I get a driver's license. I should be able to vote when I can purchase a gun. I must be able to vote if I am in the hospital, if I am in the old folks' home, if I am needing a ride to the polling place. I am a citizen. I must be able to vote. Folks were lynched, folks were shot, communities were gerrymandered, folks who believed in the Constitution were lied to, burned out, bought and sold because they agreed. All men and women are created equal. Folks vote to make us free. It's not cookies nor cake, but it is icing that is so sweet. Good for us, good for the folks, my country, 'tis of thee. I should have finished. Miss Hamer organized the Mississippi Freedom District. It dawned on me I didn't. And you know how poor Mississippi is, some of you do. And what she did was got a bus, and she took the Mississippi Freedom Democratic Party. It was at the Atlantic City. Lyndon Johnson was president because Jack Kennedy had been murdered. And she demanded that they be seated rather than the traditional Democrats. Now, you don't have to like Lyndon Johnson, it's not about that. But Lyndon was a politician, so he thought how to get things done. And it worried him that this was gonna mess up his convention. So he went to Mrs. Hamer and he said, okay, how can we work this out? Because Lyndon tried to work everything out. And he finally said to her, why don't we give you 2 seats and let them have the 4? And I will quote Fannie Lou on that one. She said, I didn't come here for no 2 seats. No, she was a great old gal. And what she did was she put her people back on the bus so that they could go back home to organize it. Now, Miss Hamer knew what you and I and everybody else in this room that's old enough to know knew, that when they crossed the border to Mississippi, I'm sure she thought she was going to be killed. But they stopped the bus and took Miss Hamer off and beat her and beat her and beat her. And I said, as long as there's anything, that's why I wanted to just remind us, as long as there's any breath in my body, I'm going to vote because Fannie Lou paid for it. It's important. You can fill it in, you can do anything you want, but it's important because they want to silence us. And we're not going to be silenced. You know, I know that there are children here, so cover the children's ears for just a second. It's important to call a mother a motherfucker. It is. And I know somebody say, well, you know, I needed my job. I didn't want to get, no, none of that. Judas said that, didn't he? I could have used my 30 pieces of silver because I had a woman I had to feed. Peter said, you know, well, you have to understand, you know, I'm with you. I'm on your side. And Jesus looked at Peter and he said, you're going, before the crow cocks 3 times, you are going to deny me. We know these things. We just have to make sure we're not a part of it. And maybe we can't. I'm an old woman, so one of the things I've learned, maybe I can't change the world. Not maybe, I can't change the world. But I know this, the world will not change me. It's important to be who you are and to get who you want done. And we know what's going on. They've lied and cheated. So that's neither here nor there. We have to go and say we have a voice. Our ancestors, our African ancestors sold us to our European ancestors who sold us to what was going to become our American ancestors who split us up and sold us up and down. We believed in the Constitution. We always forget, and I just have to say this, we always forget that there were slaves on the East Coast of the United States. We forget that John Adams had slaves. And we have to remember that Jane, I don't know, I just somehow don't think that Jane Addams could cook. But we remember, that she had a slave, and I'm sure, because I'm a black woman myself. And if I'm in that kitchen with that white woman whose husband is going to the Constitutional Convention, I'm going to say to her, you know, Miss Adams, you ought to remember this ain't good. Having my folks in slavery ain't good. And somebody can say, well, you know, the slaves were ignorant. And I just want to remind you, to remind us, there was nothing ignorant about the slaves. The slaves were not uneducated. The slaves were undegreed. And we have to remember that so that we who find ourselves in places like Emory, and good for you, I'm happy. But you're here because we are climbing, in the words of a great spiritual, Jacob's ladder. Every round goes higher and higher. So we are proud. When you graduate, when you walk across that stage, we are proud of you. But people 400 years ago would have been proud of you. You are going to walk across that stage and get a degree, and then you're going to help your children, because the degree is the points in the game. The degree is when you shoot the basket. The degree is when you catch the football. That's all it is. They don't say you know nothing, because most of you don't. You know you don't. And you've been in here being depressed and being upset because somebody told you you're ugly, you're dumb. And the people that told you that are stupid as all get out too. You get that degree because it makes your grandmother and your great-grandmother sitting on the porch. It makes them happy. That's what you do. So I just want to encourage you. I want to say it's a good idea to be old. I live in a country, and I know we live in a country that everybody's supposed to be thin and young. I do not recommend either one. It's good to be old. And you don't really get to be old until you're around 50, because the rest of it is a struggle. Yeah, nothing on earth is worse than being 14 or 15. No, it's just damn sad. So we want you to go on. We want you to do what you have to do. But if you get old, then you can find yourself sitting on the porch in a swing, remembering those people who wanted the best for you, remembering who loved you. You have to be careful about your Facebook, and this is not Nikki's lecture on that. But you have to be careful about the Facebook, because those people lie. People write you, oh, I had such good sex last night. Well, then why are you telling me? Why are you telling me? People read that and they think, oh, my life is sad. No, life is sad is all these people telling you these lies. And you got to watch the lies. The president lies. The attorney general lies. All them people lie. And the thing that was so good about my generation is that we knew segregation was a lie. Now, we got rid of it, so you're going to have to learn to live with the truth. And we're going to wish you the best on that. I do. I wish you the best. It's a good idea to be old. And I want, yeah, it's fun. And old teaches you about love. I was talking about the other night, and I just say this as an old woman, because sex is fun. Anybody tell you sex not fun has to have bad sex. It's true. And if it's not fun, get rid of whatever it is you're screwing and get something else. That's the truth. That's the truth. You sit there, I was looking at that fool, Trump, and they're all upset about the gay people, saying, oh, I don't think gay people, well, then don't screw us. That's so easy. They upset. I don't think gay people should get married, then don't marry us. It's so easy. And everybody's like, well, nobody gives a damn what you like. Go live your life. It's true. And let us take that next step so that everybody can live theirs. I wrote a love poem because I think falling in love is a lot of fun. It's when you get to be my age, you do know the difference between love and sex. Some people in this room are my age or close to it. There's a really, really, really big difference between love and sex. Sex is for when you're young and healthy, and you have energy, things that go with it. But love is about being old together, and waking up in the morning and fixing grits so that somebody that you love can have breakfast, and pouring them orange juice, and making sure that their bed is made up, and flowering out the quilts. And love is about what you do for each other. Love is also about, if I may, what you take. It's not just what you give. You have to learn. If you love, you have to learn to let people help you, to let people show that they love you. And that's not hard. That's not easy, because you think all the time. Men do that especially, because they've been always thinking, I can take care of this, I can do this. That has nothing to do with it. Sometimes we want to show you that we love you. And we want to do something, and all we want you to do is smile and pretend you like it. That's the truth. Oh, honey, that was a good breakfast. You didn't have to like it, just to eat it and smile. That's the truth. There's not a woman in this world, this is the last thing I'm going to say about that. But it made me so mad. I have a son. But it made me so mad because there's been this thing. And again, the president is such an awful son of a bitch. He said, he is. He's sitting on stage deciding, as he said, his penis is bigger than anybody else. There's not a woman in this room that chose a man for the size of his dick. Not a one. We choose you for the size of your heart. So it's time that men stop playing the dick game. Grow up, damn it. It's just love. It won't sweeten your coffee or ice your tea. It won't grill your steak or bake your crusty bread. It certainly won't pour your olive oil over your shredded Parmigiano Reggiano lettuce. It might make you laugh. It's just love. It won't rub your feet or your back. It won't tassel your hair or paint your fingernails red. It might make you want red fingernails, though. It's only love. It has no coupon value, though it also does not expire. Just you, just me. Yeah, just good for nothing love. When you get tired of it, throw it away. I love that. There's a reason pencils have erasers. And sometimes, sometimes things don't work. Everyone wants you to feel sorry about that too. Ooh, they had to get a divorce. That's better than you murdering me. I was going to say. Being here in Atlanta, though, we think about Martin. Of course, we always do. And it becomes essential that we remember. And Martin made quite a sacrifice. I think that he made a big change in the world. And I think that I didn't know Dr. King. I shouldn't even call him Martin. I didn't know him. And you don't know everybody. Yesterday, I had my CSK, Coretta Scott King t-shirt on because of the librarians. And if there are any librarians in the room, God bless you. Yeah, they are the most, librarians are the most wonderful people. And, but when we look at Dr. King and we look at what he wanted and what he was trying to do, we try to say to ourselves now, where do we fit in that? And we have to admit, if I may, that all you can do is what you can do. Does that make? And you can't make yourself do more because it's not possible. You can only do what you can do, but you have to love what you've done because you've done what you could do. And I think people try to take that away from you too. You have to be careful because it's so easy, I think, to be depressed, to think, oh, somebody makes more money or somebody is better looking. I'm a baby sister, so I'm very lucky because baby sisters have more trouble in the world because our big sisters are always smarter, always better looking. They can always do everything. And my big sister's name was Gary Ann. And they would say, Nikki, can you read? And I said, no, but Gary Ann can. Yeah. And Nikki, can you play the piano? No, but Gary Ann can. Nikki, can you dance? No, but Gary Ann can. I couldn't do anything. And what interested me is it never bothered me. It was like, I don't have to, I got a big sister. And what I can do is watch. So we in this room who are big sisters know, you should know that your little sisters are watching you. They're watching. I wrote a poem for Martin because Martin was an important man and he was a good man. And you sometimes wonder, and some of you, one of you might write a book, what if he hadn't gone to Memphis? See, we've never thought about that. I'm a big fan of people who do big things. I think it's important to do important work. But I'm also a big fan of the people who didn't, the people who stayed home, the people who did the everyday job. I had a grandmother. She didn't have any money. She graduated from Albany, Georgia, Albany Normal School, right? She married my grandfather. My grandfather loved her, fell in love with her. She's a pretty woman. And my grandfather had been married. He was a Fisk guy. He'd been married to a Spelman woman, and nothing wrong with that. But once she saw grandmother, that was it. And my parents had a troubled marriage, and that's the nicest way I could put it. They had a troubled marriage, and I finally got to a point I couldn't take it anymore. If you asked me what was I doing at 11 o'clock at night, I was listening to my father hit my mother, and it just got to be a little bit more than I could handle. And so I went to visit grandmother, and I said to grandmother, he's one of those like, you think I could live with you? You try to be casual about it. And grandmother was like, I'll have to talk to John Brown. who was my grandfather. And then I realized I was old before I realized she never talked to anybody about anything. She ran that house. But grandmother cooked, and grandpapa washed dishes because she said she had 3 daughters. After the girls were born, she said, I'm not doing it anymore. John Brown, if you want the dishes washed, you have to do it. So he washed the dishes. When I went to live with them, that became, of course, my job. But grandpapa would keep me company, and that's what I wanted to share with you. And he'd sit, the kitchen was here, and there was a dining room table here, and this is where we ate. And he would sit in there, and he would tell me stories all the time. But one time he'd say, you know, Nick, a couple of times actually, he said, you know, Nikki, I only wanted to kiss your grandmother. And I don't care where grandmother was in the house, she could hear that. And she would say, John Brown, if I had let you kiss me, you would have never married me. And for the longest, to be honest, I didn't understand. I kissed her. Why wouldn't he? It was a metaphor. I said, oh my goodness, that's not what he meant. Which was wonderful. But grandmother, like everybody, you go to church on Sunday. She's a Baptist. We were talking about the AME, but she was a Baptist. And you go to church on Sunday, you get this quarter, and you have to put a nickel in Sunday school. You have to put the nickel in church. But then you'd have something left over that you could buy ice cream. But those ladies, those women, your grandparents and mine, always somehow had a little bank someplace that they had 2 cents in, 4 cents. They always had something. And they always ended up buying something that you didn't think about. And we had a cellar. I don't know if any of you all remember cellars, but 400 Mulvaney Street had a cellar. And one day grandmother said, you know, we have to go down and see what's in the cellar. Well, she knew what was in the cellar. I didn't. But we went down and we took things out. The cellar used to have coal. But then once they went to electricity, you didn't need the coal. And once we did that, we called my great-grandmother, who was the free child of slave parents. And what she had there wrapped up was a mirror. And nobody realizes that the slaves never knew what they looked like because they never had mirrors. But obviously, Mama Dear, I think Mama Dear stole the mirror. But then how do you steal a thing when you were stolen? So that's true. So one of the things I still have it. It sits in my bathroom. We had a little mirror that Mama Dear had, and grandmother gave it to me, and I intend to give it, all things being equal, to I have a granddaughter, and I intend to pass it along. It's not, worth anything. It's silver. It is silver. But you think about the things that our grandparents went through, and that's what I was saying. You think about the things and the pride that they had in us as we went step by step by step. And Martin, this is a long way, and I'm sorry to but Martin had a lot to do with watching how we did that. But the people who stayed, the people who were not the Frederick Douglasses of this world, the people who didn't do great things, the people who got up every day and went out, even after slavery, they were sharecroppers. They were not being paid properly. Even today, you're being underpaid. You need a union, you need to join it, and you need to fight all of it. You need to fight for equal pay. That's the truth. But the people who had, I live in Virginia, I always think about the child who had a peanut when the wars, because there were wars. If you study African history, it's nothing to be embarrassed about, it's reality. When they lost, whichever community lost, and the grandparents, because the parents are going to be out fighting, know that they cannot protect their grandchildren. I always see a grandmother taking one of the peanuts and putting it in the hands of her grandson and saying to him, remember me, because she knows that he's going to be taken far, far away. He won't be back. And I can see him. He's just an ordinary boy who's going to be sold, and he's going to go through Middle Passage, and he's going to be sold again. But he's going to hold on somehow to that peanut. And when he finally gets to Virginia, he's going to put it in the ground. And people are going to laugh at him because people are fools. And they're going to say to him, we're going to run tonight. And he said, no, this is my home. I got to stay. They don't have any respect for that peanut that he put in the ground that he promised his grandmother. So Virginia now calls themselves the Peanut State. That's not what they were. What they were is this black boy had a promise to keep, and he kept it. Virginia has a promise to keep with the Constitution, and they haven't. It's time that we think about that. But that boy did it, and the peanut grew, and it grew. We don't know him. We don't know what he did, but he stayed and built a home, and the home was just a little shack. And he stayed and built a church and found a woman to marry him, and they had children. And he stayed and built a school. These are great people. And it's so easy to forget when you're black and looking at television or something, how great the people we are. We are a great, we are. The people who stayed are as great. I'm a big Harriet Tubman fan. I'm glad she was able. I am. I'm proud of her. But I'm glad for the people who stayed. The people who had to cut their sons and their husbands and their daughters down from trees, who had to wipe the sweat and spit off of them. The people who had to bring their daughters home after they were being raped and had to clean them up and had to try to say, it's all right, baby, I love you, it's gonna be all right. Those are great people, and it's important that we remember this. I wrote a poem for Martin, because Martin was a great man, but there were also the great men that he went to Memphis to see about, and they're the ones who collected the garbage. They didn't get tipped. Nobody thanked them for it. They didn't get paid enough. They just did their job every day, and we have to remember them. This is a sacred poem. Blood has been shed to consecrate it. Wash your hands, remove your shoes, bow your head. I have a dream. That was a magical time. Hi-ho, silver away. Oh, Cisco, oh, Pancho, here I come to save the day. I want the world to see what they did to my boy. No, 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 I'm not gonna move. If we're wrong, then the Constitution of the United States is wrong. Montgomery, Birmingham, Selma, 4 little girls, constant threats, constant harassment, constant fear, SCLC, Ralph and Martin, Father Knows Best, Leave It to Beaver, Ed Sullivan. How long? Not long. But what Mr. Thoreau said to Mr. Emerson, are you doing out? This is a letter from Birmingham City Jail. This is a eulogy for Albany. This is a water hose for Aniston. This is a thank you to Diane Nash. This is a flag for James Farmer. This is a how can I make it without you to Ella Baker. This is for the red clay of Georgia that yielded black men of courage, black men of vision, black men of hopes that bent over cotton or sweet potatoes or pool tables and baseball diamonds, playing for a chance to live free and breathe easy and have enough money to take care of the folks they love. This is why we can't wait. That swirling Mississippi wind, the Alabama pine, that Tennessee dust defiling the clothes the women washed, those hot winds the lemonade couldn't cool, that let the women know we too must overcome. This is for Fannie Lou Hamer, Joanne Robinson, Septima Clark, Daisy Bates, all the women who said, baby, 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 I know you didn't mean to lose your job. I know you didn't mean to gamble the rent money. I know you didn't mean to hit me. I know the Lord is going to make a way. I know I'm leaning on the everlasting arms. How much pressure does the earth exert on carbon to make a diamond? How long does the soil push against the flesh, molding the moan that becomes a cry that bursts forth, crystalline, unbreakable, priceless, incomparable Martin, I made my vow to the Lord that I never would turn back. How much pressure does the sins of the world press against the heart of a man who becomes the voice of his people? He should have had a tattoo, Freedom Now or something like that. Should have braided his hair, carried his pool cue in a mahogany case, wafted that wonderful laugh over a plate of skillet fried chicken, drop biscuits, dandelion greens on the side. This is a sacred poem. Open your arms, turn your palms up, feel the spirit of greatness, and be redeemed. This is a silly point. My feelings don't get hurt that often, but they do get hurt. And I was looking at, I do, I think we should introduce me. I have 7, and I'm not bragging about this, it's just a reality. I have 7 NAACP awards, right? Image awards. I'm so proud of that. And I look at Jeopardy almost every night. And we've been writing into Alex, and for the longest, Jeopardy didn't have anything but white questions. For those of you who looked, and we've been saying, oh no, you got to get some black questions, and so finally they did a whole thing on the Image Awards, and when I heard that, I'm sitting at my table eating dinner, it's an Image Award. I said, oh wow, I'm gonna be. I was thrilled, because I knew I had to be something because I'm the only person that has 7 or more, And they were asking questions and they were asking questions. I wasn't even a wrong answer. I don't mind admitting it, actually, I was hurt. And I went to my class the next day and I said, Jeopardy did the Image Awards. I wasn't on it at all. And they were saying, oh, Nikki, we know, we're glad. We don't want to see, somebody making a mistake on you or making you feel foolish. And I said, but I've been on, I keep thinking I should be at least a wrong answer on some of them damn shows. And they were saying no. And I don't know if you looked at Deal or No Deal. And I really always cheer against the people because they're so damn greedy. And you're sitting there, well, it's a machine. And they're sitting there, Deal or No Deal. And they'll always invariably, no deal. And then they end up with nothing. And they're like, oh, how did that happen? Because you're a greedy fool. And so I got upset about all of it. And I just dismissed the class. I said, y'all go on. I don't want to see you. Well, it wasn't right. And I went upstairs. I teach down. I went upstairs and I wrote a poem called Deal or No Deal. It's only fair. But just in case my class didn't know that they had hurt my feelings, it was for English 4714. And just in case they weren't sure that it was them, I said CRN 16937. Just so when their grandparents, their grandchildren, Grandpapa, were you in CRN? You're gonna have to admit, yes, damn it, I hurt her feelings. I wrote the poem. My class is not so sure that I should apply to Deal or No Deal. They think I am lucky. After all, I am teaching them. They know I'm smart. They are, for example, learning, yet they don't want to see me make those greedy mistakes and push beyond the envelope. The banker is neither friend nor foe. He's a machine. To think you can beat him is to think you will win at Vegas or love. But I persist. My dream is a red dress, high above my knees, high-heeled red sandals, and me coming over the top. The music booming, doom 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 doom. Hi, Howie, I will say, with a lovely smile. You remember that? I don't want to play the game. I want to be it. They were born 40 years after me, yet I am younger. I know you cannot go through life unless you are willing for love or money to make a fool of yourself. Where else does the ecstasy lie? I like that. And I am a big fan of, as you probably have gathered, but I'm a big fan of black women. And I just think we're wonderful, and I think everybody should. We are. And I'm a big fan of space travel. And I'm really so sorry. I would say this to all of the youngsters in the room: don't smoke. Because if you smoke, you'll end up with lung cancer. And if you end up with lung cancer, they're going to do it. Like my left lung, my doctor had to take I guess he didn't have to, but he did take my left lung out. And it's like, okay, I got 2, I can handle that. But then you get, breast cancer, and Gregory, my doctor's crazy. And when I got the breast cancer, he wanted, I don't know if your doctor talks to you like, if you're a black woman and you walk into a doctor, let me just say this because all the black women in the room know it. The first thing they say is, you're eating too much salt. I don't give a damn what's wrong with you. You're eating too much salt. And so I went, I had a problem. I was showering. You know how you shower? And I felt a lump. And then I said, I asked nothing. A couple of days later, felt a lump. And this is when you need a girlfriend. You can't call your boyfriends, because if you call your boyfriend and say, honey, can you come over and feel my tit? Well, he'll probably have something else in mind. And so that's when you need a girlfriend. You call your girlfriend and say, would you come over? I need a favor. And so, and she did. And I said, would you mind, just kind of feeling the right tit? And she said, yeah, something's there. And so we went to see the doctor, and the doctor's name was Gregory. And Gregory was like, it's probably not cancer. I said, Gregory, I am not lucky. Now, whatever else it is, I'm not lucky. It's cancer. Now, where do we go from there? Because, it's cancer, And so we checked it was cancer. And he said, well, what would you like to do? I said, Gregory, I am the PhD. You are the MD. I'm going to pay you. You're supposed to tell me. He said, well, Nikki, to tell you the truth, you're 70. I was 75. Then you're 75 years old. And whatever you've done, you've done. You're not going to do it again. So get over that. And if I were you, I would just take it off. And I said, take it off. Because you got two, you get the balance going. And but you see, I came out here on the stage. Not one of you said, damn, Nikki's missing a tit. You didn't. Which was good, because for any of us that end up with breast cancer and you think, oh no, I'm going to look funny. You're not going to look any funnier than you do now. Just go take care of it and go do what you have to do. But the problem is, you can't go into space, and I'm a space freak. And the reason you can't, as you know, is that I can, in fact, go into space. I just can't come back. Because when I come back into gravity, my organs will move around and it'll kill me. Now, Dr. Bolden is a friend of mine, and I really love him a lot, and his wife is Jackie. And I said to him, I think for me, the solution here is, why don't I go, I'm 76 now, I'll be 77 in June. I said, why don't I pick a date, like if I'm lucky, I'll live to be 80. When I'm 80, why don't I go into space? Because how much longer am I going to live any damn way? And I'll be able to tell you what I see. You see what I'm saying? And then when I pass, when I make the transition, just open the hatch, drop me out. I'm dead anyway. And, that's true. And you all can look up some night, some clear night, and say, damn, there goes Nikki. And I just want to encourage the youngsters in this room to think about space. You got to go into space, because we, black women particularly, have been in space. We came from what we knew, which was Africa, through what we didn't know, which is Middle Passage, to what we didn't know, which is now going to be called America. So we are perfect, because we'll go up to Mars, and somebody said, well, you don't know what you're going to find in Mars. I didn't know what I was going to find here. And I didn't. And somebody else said, well, you don't know what they'll do to you. I have a good idea, because I know what's been done. And I know if a Martian rapes me and I end up expecting this Martian baby, I know what I'll do. That's true. Because there's nothing nicer. There's nothing nicer than black women. I will have it, I will name it, and I will love it. Because I'm not going to be afraid of something that I have. So the most important person to get into space is black women. Now, people my age, we're too old, but our grandchildren have to begin to think about what they're going to do, because they need, you can see what's happening with Earth. And so it's time that we started to think about, let's go into space. And our children and our children's children need to think about how they want to handle that. And I think it's fabulous, because I love science. And I think it's just the most wonderful thing in the world that we're going to send, and we should, black women are going to go up there, and we'll call you. We'll let you know, but we'll get to run the show, and that's what's important. I wrote a poem, and I'd like to end on it. I love it so much. It's called Star Date 186 to 8.19. Oh, I know I end up with all these crazy, but this is not a poem. This is hot chocolate at the beginning of spring, topped with hand-whipped double cream. A splash of brandy to give it sass, and just a little cinnamon to give it class. This is not a poem. This is a summer quilt, log cabin pattern. See that corner piece? That was grandmother's wedding dress. That was grandpapa's favorite tie. The white strip there is the baby who died. Mama had pneumonia, so the red flannel shows the healing. This does not hang from museum walls, nor will it sell for thousands. This is here to keep me warm. This is not a sonnet, though it will sing. Precious Lord, take my hand. Amazing grace, how sweet the sound. Go down Moses, way down to Egypt land. Go down to Marian Anderson, way up to the future. It will swell on the voice of Marian Anderson, lilt on the arias of Leontine, dance on the trillings of battle, do the dirty, dirty with Bessie, wrap its way into the 90s, and go on into space with Etta James saying, at last, no. This is not a sonnet, but the truth of the beauty, that the only authentic voice of planet Earth comes from the black soil, tilled and mined by the daughters of the diaspora. This is a rocking chair. Rock me gently in the bosom of Abraham. This is a bus seat. No, I'm not going to move today. This is a porch where they sat spitting at fireflies, telling young Alex the story of the African. This is a hook rug to cover a dirt floor. This is an iron pot with pork, with leftover vegetables, making a slow cooking soup. This is pork simmering chitlins, surprising everybody with our ability to make a way out of no way. This is not rest when we are weary, nor comfort when we are sad. It is laughter when we are in pain. It is, never mind, when we are confused. It is, keep climbing, child, when the road takes an unfair turn. It is, don't let nobody turn you round when the way is dark. It is the faith of our mothers who plaited our hair, put Vaseline on our faces, polished our rundown shoes, patched our dresses, wore sweaters so that we could wear coats, who welcomed us and our children when we were left alone to rear them, who said, get your education and nobody can put you back. This is not a poem, no. It is a celebration of the roads we have traveled. It is a prayer for the roads to come. This is an explosion, the original Big Bang that makes the world a hopeful, loving place. This is the Black woman in all our trouble and glory, in all our past history and future forbearance, and all that ever made love a possibility. This is about us. Bleached and natural, braided and straightened hair, made up or beaten up faces, tall, short, stately, bent, CC riders, junkers, whores, wives, mothers, grandmothers, aunts, working in the home or outside, working in the system or outside, working, praying, working to survive, giving pride, giving succor, giving voice, giving encouragement, giving whatever we can. This is a flag we fly that is placed over Peter Salem and Peter Poor, the 54th Regiment from Massachusetts, all the men and women lynched in the name of rape, Emmett Till, Medgar Evers, Malcolm X, Martin Luther King Jr. This is a banner we fly for respect, dignity, the assumption of integrity, for a future generation to rally around. This is about us, celebrating ourselves, and a well-deserved honor it is. This is a rocket. Let's ride.